For 8 hours, Jacksonville's City Council has gone in depth on the proposed Lot J development ahead of the project's first major potential vote. The development by JAG's owner Shad Khan is described as a 50-50 public-private partnership. But the huge amount of money the city is looking to invest if the deal is approved has raised some eyebrows. On your side's David Jones is live at Lot J tonight breaking down today's development.
Step out whenever you want, Bubba.
Anthony, council has spent all day discussing the nuances of this deal, especially those nuances that both the developers and the city agree on. But where the real debate comes in is money. Accounting for interest, taxpayers could be on the hook for nearly $400 million when all is said and done. And so far, council has not moved the needle on any additional taxpayer protections that some council members have been pushing hard for. It comes down to the deal itself. Shad Khan's development team not backing down, saying they've made a lot of concessions on the deal. But several council members like Randy DeFore and Matt Carlucci criticizing what they say is a serious lack of taxpayer protections.
I've heard about how much Cordish is going to make. How much are we going to make anything? All these, but we're not thinking about the fans. We're not thinking about the taxpayer.
Perhaps the most contentious discussion surrounding the $65 million interest-free bread box loan, which at this point every party has recognized is actually a grant, structured as a loan to avoid taxes. An attempt by Council President Tommy Hazouri to scrap the bread box loan entirely through an amendment ultimately failed 5-14.
It's not a bread box, it's a bread line for this city. $65 million that we could be putting in to a lot of other issues.
JAG's attorney Paul Hardin told council they would work to shift some of the bread box money into grant form, mainly for optics, but the developers aren't budging on the numbers in the deal. Shad Khan's development team did make one additional concession today, saying they support an amendment that would let the city force Shad Khan to sell his interest in Lot J if the JAGs leave Jacksonville. Now, at last check, the final vote, or not really the final vote, but the final vote for today still hasn't taken place yet. That's going to need a simple majority, and that would basically take the bill out of committee as it stands right now. And the big Lot J approval could come next Tuesday. That, though, would need a 2/3 majority in City Council. We're live at Lot J. David Jones, First Coast News, on your side.
Thank you, David, for breaking that all down for us. Now, this next